more. I'm joined now by Anil Gupta, Michael Dingman Chair at the University of Maryland, and Thinkers 500 list of the world's most influential living management thinkers. And from Beijing, Victor Gao, current affairs commentator. Thanks, gentlemen, to both of you for joining us. Anil, let me start off with you. The announcement out of Beijing being described in various places as the boldest set of reforms to come out in a long, long time. For you, what are the headlines on the economic reform side?
I think on the economic reform side, I focus on three things. Two are clearly economic. One is both social and economic. On the economic side would be state-owned enterprises, given their power and role in the economy. Second would be banking. And once again, banking is one of the super industries in any economy. And the third would be pollution. Pollution is both a social issue as well as an economic issue. So I think those are the three big, to me, from an economic point of view, stand out. I think the reforms are comprehensive and they're in the right direction. What's not clear right now, and of course it's too early for it to be clear, is the speed with which the actual implementation will take place. And ultimately, the proof of the pudding will be in the speed with which implementation takes place.
That's right. That's always the tough part, implementing your plans. Well, let me go to Victor Gao in Beijing. Victor, what were the most significant reforms for you?
Well, I think these 60 points are highly interrelated with each other. And they are aimed at addressing, reshaping the relationships between the government and the market on the one hand, and the government and the people on the other hand. For example, in addressing this household registration form, the hukou system. Now, the hukou system is not just the registration of the people. Along with it also comes along the social benefits. And whether a person registered for his family in one province can enjoy the benefits in another province, and whether the central government or the provincial government need to share the burdens of providing such social benefits, etc. And where does the money come from? Whether it should come from the tax paid to the government, or whether the government can reallocate the profit earned by the SOEs, for example. So all these points are highly related. My biggest impression is that with the implementation of these 60 points, China will be reshaped in the coming years and the coming 5 to 10 years. And the relationships between the government and the market, between the government and the people, will be very, very much different compared with in the previous period of time. And people will have greater empowerment, and the market will be allowed to play the decisive role. The government will be more becoming a regulator and refraining from intervening directly in the day-to-day operations of the economic activities.
Okay.
And the SOEs and the private enterprises will need to play on the same level ground with equal access to resources.
Right. Anil, talking about markets, land reform, how soon will it be when farmers will be able to, or rent for that matter, or sell their non-farming land?
I think it's difficult to say. And the reason I say it's difficult is because, earlier you had the interesting detail about buying for 18,000 and then selling for 754,000.
Yeah.
So about what, 40 times. Now, what happens is that today, land acquisition and land sales are a huge chunk of the tax base for local cities, for example. Just take the city of Beijing. What % of the Beijing city government's revenue comes from land sales? Now, I think giving the farmers the right to actually sell the land or sell their rights, their lease rights on the land directly, if that were to happen, essentially the direct effect of that would be in terms of on the city budgets. And of course, we're not talking about here 5 or 10% in the case of many cities. We are talking about 30, 40% of the city's budget coming from land sales. So if you take that revenue away, then you have to figure out what do the cities do. And so, in fact, one of the obvious ways in which one would think that the cities would respond to this would be in terms of property taxes. So essentially, that the speed with which land reform takes place along the lines that we are talking about is connected actually to the speed with which, for instance, property tax becomes, a part of the reality in most cities. So it's these interconnections. And again, of course, the power of different stakeholders. Because, somebody wins. I mean, it's like if the farmer wins, well, ultimately, it's a non-zero-sum game, but there is a zero-sum element to it. And so somebody wins and somebody loses. And how do these tensions get handled, I think, which will determine the speed.
Okay, I want to go to Victor Gar for one final question, and we just have a minute, Victor. Price reform, how is that going to work, and should consumers be wary of this?
Well, up to now, the government in China still has a very dominant role in setting prices, even though market economy is very active and dynamic. However, the government may not be the most efficient and effective decision maker as far as efficient pricing is concerned. Therefore, I think going forward, the government will refrain from a direct intervention in setting prices, and it will allow the market to play a decisive role. This will help create a more efficient price setting mechanism for the commodities, for the resources, etc. And I think this will also reshape the relationship between the market and the government, so that the government will do its own regulatory job better, and the market will be given a freer hand in creating efficiency. And if the market fails, as occasionally it will, the government need to step in to fill the gap.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Victor Gar there in Beijing. Anil Gupta with me here in Washington. Thanks, gentlemen.